Hi, we are live from the European Week of Regions and Cities. So this is the fourth and last day, and here with me are Dana Spinant from the DG Regio and Ian Barber from the European Committee of the Regions. So you are both directors of communication. So I'm going to ask you, of course, to communicate about this week. And since this is the last day, what will you remember from this edition? What will you take home with you?
Well, for the European Committee of the Regions, of course, the Week of Regions and Cities is where the politicians and the projects and the policy can all meet together. And it's, in terms of its sheer size, over 6,000 participants, politicians, 6 different members of the College of Commissioners, and the members of the Committee of the Regions, and politicians from regional and local authorities across the EU. What we remember, I guess, from this year, first of all, it's 30 years of this policy. Second, we're at a moment of decision. We're about 200 days ahead of the European elections. And then, of course, there's the whole question of how Europe looks in the future for regions and cities beyond into the next decade.
And for you, Dana?
Well, I think that this edition of the European Week of Regions and Cities demonstrated that regions and cities have much energy and have much to contribute to the big debates which animate us in Europe today, including the debate on the future of Europe and where Europe is going. If we think about the topics that we chose for this week, which were chosen together with the regions and cities themselves, it's very clear that what we are here to do is to find together answers, local solutions to global challenges. So we debated here the future of cohesion policy. After 2020, we debated here how to make our regions future-proof through innovation, how to cherish our past through by preserving our cultural heritage, and how to basically address climate change and to find solutions for environmental challenges. So the regions and the cities have the answer to many of these questions, and I think that this week proved it once more.
And what are those answers, or at least some of them? Maybe I'm going to ask you, Ian.
Well, first of all, in terms of the concrete projects which can be seen all around us here. Second, in terms of where policies are going. And, of course, this is the one place where we connect with all the other policies that the EU is responsible for, as Dana said, from climate change down to local issues across borders, like where to site schools and hospitals. But I think also what's interesting is the whole outreach to citizens side, which has been a big theme in the cohesion policy at the moment. And that, I think, is part of regions and cities' future role in a context where possibly you could say that all politics is local, even European Union politics.
And for you, Dana?
Well, I think the answer to many of these challenges needs to be based on 2 twin acknowledgements. First, there is no one-size-fits-all, and therefore sometimes tailor-made solutions identified by cities and regions are best, but also at the same time that there is a lot to learn from each other. This is why this week, which showcased so many good examples of projects to address these challenges, was so useful. We've seen there good examples of how to integrate migrants or refugees in cities. We've seen there how to innovate by developing smart specialization strategies, by building on your own strength of each region, and so on and so forth. So I think that the answer is each has to contribute to finding a solution, but at the end of the day, the solution will need to be tailor-made.
And compared to other events, why is the European Week of Regions and Cities important? Coming back to you.
I think it's, first of all, because regions and cities are where challenges are felt primarily and where the answers need to be found for these challenges. It is because they are the level where we can find integrated solutions so as to innovate, to develop industries of the future without hurting the environment and while addressing climate change. all of these solutions need to be taken and developed in a holistic way. And cities and regions are at the front line of this debate. And also cities of regions are the level which is closest to the citizens. And in the current political context, where many citizens ask themselves questions about what is the union there for and what is added value and their place in this union, cities and regions are there to help provide the answer and to connect cities and regions and the European Union with the citizens.
But isn't it hard to please so many different regions and cities?
I think this is the nature of the European Union. And I don't think it's a matter of pleasing them. It's a matter of embracing them and about finding the answers to our challenges together.
And what's your opinion?
I think Dana is quite correct. And going further, in order to reconcile the views of all these different regions and cities, one of the things that our President Karl-Heinz Lamberts did was to make a speech about the state of the European Union, giving the view from the regions and cities. And I think that looks forward to the work that we'll be doing in the future. For example, there is the next summit of EU regions and cities, which is taking place in Bucharest next March. Beyond that, as we both mentioned, the European elections, and then the whole of the journey into the next decade stretching out before us. So it really is a great opportunity for us all, I think.
And in the future, how do you see the role of regions and cities?
As Dan has already pointed out, there are many areas of EU policy which are already de facto delivered by regions and cities. And we have a great deal of work to do to get that more widely known by people in areas like integration, in areas like climate change, and even in areas as far as relations with neighbouring countries. So that I think is a very important first step, making more widely known what is delivered. I think if we can engage more and more with local and regional politicians from municipalities, from cities, from urban areas, from rural areas, from the north of Finland to the south of Malta, from the west coast of Ireland to Cyprus, I think engaging more with the politicians and connecting them with these projects and policies should also be a priority for us. And then, of course, there's the work which we do very closely together to show the important future for cohesion and EU funds in general through the Cohesion Alliance. So those would be 2 or 3 highlights, I think, that we could work on together in the future.
And so you were talking about projects. Do you maybe have a concrete example of a project that helped regions and cities? Maybe the first one that comes to your mind?
It's the Murcia project on migrant integration, which won the Regio Star Awards 2 days ago, whereby funding from cohesion policy has helped identify skills and match jobs for refugees. And we had a very moving testimony of one of the refugees who was supposed to through this program. And that's cohesion policy, very concrete, very tangible. You can see it and you can have tears in your eyes.
And can you think of another one, maybe?
2 things which struck me. First of all, on our first day together on Monday, the topic of climate change has been mentioned. And with the report being released by the UN panel, I thought that was a very interesting kick-off for a global issue. And then right down to the local level, I was hearing, for example, about the issues of siting schools and hospitals on the border, for example, in the Pyrenees, between France and Spain, and some very specific projects there which deal with issues which are, of course, of real concern to real citizens.
And how do you see the future of Europe?
Positively. I think that regions and cities have a big role to play in 2 different but complementary ways. First of all, regions and cities can help Europe, the European Union, make decisions which are better for and which provide better results and are more effective with a more positive impact at the local level. And secondly, well, I think that they can also help communicate better Europe at the local level and explain to the citizen what this is all about. And if there is one thing I want to take very strongly from this week is the call by the President of the Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, who in the opening speech said, rejected all forms of populism and nationalism. There is no such thing as positive populism. And secondly, he linked very firmly cohesion policy to the future of Europe and appealed to regions and cities to be out there and to raise the awareness of the Europeans about the importance of the big political rendezvous of 2019, which are the European elections, the elections for the European Parliament.
And so you spoke about nationalisms. How could we fight it?
By communicating and by engaging with people, by making them understand that there are no easy solutions to the problems that we have, and going solo, individually, looking for a solution by a city, by a region, by a country is not sufficient, because the problems are bigger than a city or a region or a country. They're sometimes bigger than the European Union itself. That's why we need to make alliances, progressive alliances. So engaging with them, listening to their worries, because they have justified worries about their place in society and about the future of their children and of their planet. But it's only by listening to them, engaging with them and communicating what we do for them and doing also what they think is necessary. So adapting our responses to their worries and to their solutions is what we need to do.
And Ian, how do you see the future of Europe?
Well, three things, as Dana already mentioned. The week kicked off with the President of the European Commission, and one of the things that the European Commission has been doing is to chart out a new way of working, which includes working with regions and cities, and that's something which we're looking forward to working on in the future with the Commission. Second, I mentioned the speech by our President on the state of EU regions and cities, the state of the EU, and he gave that speech in the presence of the President of the European Parliament. And there again, as was being said, there's a role of acting together that no one can do it on their own. And then finally, I think the role of regional and local authorities, and particularly regional and local politicians, in engaging directly with citizens. One of the things that we've been doing, or the members of the Committee of the Regions have been engaging in citizens' dialogues, and we also have various surveys for the participants and mobile phone apps, and we brought all the results of that together in a report this week, which shows that more than half of all of our members have actually engaged in this process of reaching out directly to citizens in coordination with the other EU institutions, and of course in coordination with the policies and projects of cohesion. So those would be three bright stars for the future, I would say.
Thank you very much, Ian and Dana, for explaining to me a little bit how you see the future. And thank you to the audience for watching. I want to tell you that we'll be back at 5:15 after the closing session with the keynote speaker. So please keep your computer open.